Hi, have you thought about starting your own real estate sales team? Hi, my name is Thomas Heimann, and today's episode will deal with when to start a team, why to start a team, and most importantly, how to start a team. So whether you're just starting out on that path going down towards building your team or group, or whether you started your own team and you wonder how to take it to the next level, this video is going to be for you. So why would somebody want to start a team? There are a couple of reasons. The first one is branding and having a few agents work together as one group with one voice, with one brand, but independent of their broker's brand. So you might be with a franchise brokerage that has their own brand, but you want to set yourself apart and create your own brand. And it's almost akin to starting your own brokerage within that brokerage umbrella. The second reason why agents look to build a team is to scale, because there's only so much you can do by yourself, and there are only 24 hours in the day. And if you're doing everything yourself and you're a sole practitioner, or even if you have an assistant and you're having someone help you with some of the administrative duties, there's still only so many transactions that you can personally do, and especially when you're looking at the buyer side. So an individual agent could certainly have 20, 30, 40, 50 listings and run them simultaneously if you have an admin staff, a listing coordinator maybe, but it's completely impossible to work with 50 buyers at the same time yourself. And if you're running 40, 50 listings simultaneously, those 50 listings should generate at least 50, 60, 70 buyers plus another 40, 50 listings. So you cannot do that by yourself, and in order to scale your business, you want to take a look at building a team. So it's either branding or scaling, or a combination of the two. Now, most agents that call themselves a team or a group are really more of a loosely knit partnership of two agents. So you might have a husband and wife team that are just working together and decide to brand themselves as a team. There might be two agents that just feel that for some reason they really complement each other, and they decide to work together as a team. And these type of partnership teams are actually fairly easy to negotiate if you are both on the same page and you've worked with this person and you know each other. And in most cases, you really just have an arrangement between the two of you where you say, okay, we're going to do everything together and we're going to split everything 50-50. Or you might say, whoever brings in a deal gets a little bit more than the other person. And the bottom line with these type of arrangements is that you want to have a written agreement between the two of you to really think through and detail out under what scenario is who going to receive how much. There are some ways to take it up another notch by creating an umbrella company for your team, which is a separate subject altogether. I'm going to talk about that because obviously you cannot do legally business as a team with respect to a legal entity. You have to be a brokerage to be able to set up a separate LLC to do the business, but there is a workaround that some teams are using. So I'll get to that in another video. The kind of team I really want to talk about today is the more structured, real team, the kind of team that I built when I got into the real estate business and decided to really scale up my business. And a great book for you to read if you're interested in building your team business, because you're really looking at building a true business underneath your broker's umbrella, is Michael Gerber's E-Myth Revisited. And basically what you want to do is start out by breaking down your activities into separate functions. So you have the data entry, you have the listing coordinators, you have the people that are doing the research for you, you have the people that are doing the marketing for you. Initially, it might all be you yourself, but you want to get real clarity on what these positions are. What are all the hats that you're wearing right now? And just two of those hats are buyer agent and listing agent, but there are many, many other functions that you're also managing. Your transaction coordinator, your contract to closing coordinator, your listing coordinator that puts together the paperwork. You're maybe the MLS data entry person that puts it into the MLS, and the list goes on and on and on. So you want to get clarity on what all the functions are that you're running within your real estate practice, and then decide, okay, which of these functions are functions that I can hire someone else to do to free me up in order to generate more value for the organization. So for instance, if you can hire a full-time assistant and pay him or her $35,000, maybe $40,000 if they're excellent, and that frees you up and you're now able to generate an extra $150,000 in business because you can pick up extra listings and work with extra buyers, and that is obviously a smart investment. Most teams that become mega teams really started out stair-stepping their way towards it. And you are the Rainmaker as the team leader. So you're the driver, you're the CEO of your team, and you need to really create some business strategy and decide, okay, what are my limits? How much can I do myself and really provide the very highest level customer service experience for my buyers and sellers without needing to bring on help? And then what can you farm out? A lot of agents that start building a team make a huge mistake by hiring a buyer agent or two buyer agents and maybe an inside sales assistant before they get an admin person that really could take care of 80% of your busy work and free you up and allow you to work with more sellers and buyers yourself before you then bring on a buyer specialist. If you build a team and you hire a couple of buyer specialists and then they're sitting around and twiddling their thumbs, that's not going to work for you either. As a high volume, high performance team, and you as the Rainmaker, your value proposition to a buyer specialist that is going to join your team is that, hey, right now you're struggling, you're doing maybe 4, 5, 6, 7 transactions a year. How would you like to do 4, 5, 6 transactions a month? And the only way you can do that is if you have the significant lead flow and business flow. So you have to stair-step your way into that direction. When I built my team, I started out by hiring a real estate assistant, and she really was an all-rounder that took care of all the paperwork, prepared my listing packages, put everything into the MLS, handled the contract to closing aspect, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that really freed me up to focus on listings, on working with sellers, and also dealing with the buyer leads that I was generating, because again, listings are designed to generate buyer business. And when I got to the point that I had about 10, 12 active listings, I actually went ahead and hired another person, a marketing assistant, to help me with the busy work on the marketing side. And back then it was all newspaper advertising, magazine advertising, and deal with the incoming leads and putting them into the database. And I was spending my time, making phone calls, taking calls, working with leads, setting appointments, meeting with buyers, working with sellers, taking listing appointments. But all the other stuff, the marketing, the execution of the advertising for the listings, the update calls to the sellers to let them know what went on, getting feedback on showings, scheduling showings, all of the busy work that I didn't need to have to do myself personally, those two people were handling. And then I went ahead and brought on some buyer specialists when I got to the point that I was really busy with the listings and I could not physically handle all of the buyer increase that were coming and all of the buyer transactions, because again, you can only work with maybe active buyers that are looking at stuff right now. Personally, you can probably only work with 3 or 4 buyers at any given time if you're super organized. And if you have 10, 15, 20 listings, you're obviously going to generate a lot more potential buyers than that. Now, if you decide to build this type of team, a formal team, you really need to have a few things in order to make it work for you. The first one is a map, a roadmap of what are all the functions in your real estate practice, what are all the hats that you're wearing right now, and these positions, which positions are you going to hand off first? So what I did, I really gave each position, each hat that I was wearing, a name, and then I hired to that position and kind of got rid of the hats. So when I hired my first full-time assistant, I gave her 4 or 5 of my hats, and then hired another person eventually and gave her a few more of my hats, and that freed me up. And then eventually I was only wearing the listing agent, listing specialist hat. And some teams grow to a point where they even then will hire additional listing specialists because they have more listing opportunities than they can handle themselves. So you want to create a roadmap and decide exactly what are the positions that you need to farm out, that you need to hire out, that you need to create positions for, and then leverage those hats over to them. The second thing you need to do is you need to document, and Michael Gerber in his E-Myth Revisited really digs into that. You need to pretend you're franchising your business, so you want to create policies and procedures for every little thing. So when you're going to hire a person, what exactly is the written job description and step-by-step instructions on how everything is done? You know, the reason McDonald's is the most successful real estate franchise and food franchise, I say real estate franchise because they're really a real estate business. They own all of the land that all the restaurants are on, but obviously they're the most successful restaurant as well. But both of those businesses that they have, the real estate side and the food side, the restaurant side, is completely scripted and nothing is left to chance. So each restaurant is structured the same way, laid out the same way, the kitchen is the same way, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And the food items are the same way. They're going to be prepared the same way. Everything is structured. And so you need to take that same approach to your real estate practice. Okay, I'm going to hire a marketing coordinator, or I'm going to hire a contractor closing coordinator. What is the step-by-step process for that role? And that's going to take some time. So you're really going to have to spend some time planning that out, which will help you then hire these people, train these people, manage them, because you can measure if they're performing according to the game plan. And you also have, guaranteeing that you're going to have consistency across the board, that every one of your customers has the same experience, that every listing, every buyer, every transaction, every closing works the same way, it's the same experience, and then you can work later on improving those experiences every step of the way. So number one, you're going to have to create that roadmap. Number two, you're going to have to really script everything out that you're doing. And then number three, you're going to have to put in place some reporting parameters and procedures where you can track your numbers in a very detailed fashion. Once you have these pieces in place, then you can start executing on your plan of bringing on people. And you will know, okay, here's what I can do as the Rainmaker, as the real estate professional. My highest payoff activity is going to listing appointments, taking the listings, working with buyers face-to-face, going onto showings, writing contracts, taking offers that come in from my sellers, negotiating offers and contracts, and that's it. Everything else can be done by someone else. So until you get to the point that everything else in your business is done by someone else, and you haven't hit a limit yet where you are not able to work with the buyer opportunities that you have, the seller opportunities that you have, you really have no business bringing on board a buyer specialist. When you do bring on board a buyer specialist, there again, you need to have a very, very specific procedure. And please contact me, leave comments, and I'll be happy to share with you the precision contracts that I used to use and the training manuals that I used to use when I ran the Thomas Heimann home selling team, and it was very specific, very detailed, nothing was left to chance. When somebody joined my team, here's how we do the business. Here's how our team, our group operates. Here's how we greet customers. Here's how we do a presentation. Here's how we do showings. You don't want to have a situation where you hire 3 buyer specialists and each and every one of them is doing their thing their way, a different way, because you're building your team, you're the brand, this is your business, you're the CEO of your team and group, and so you're responsible for that quality control that you're putting into place. So again, it's a huge responsibility that you need to get right, otherwise your team is not going to succeed. And then you need to have a detailed agreement with your team. You need to check with your broker what their requirements are. Now in the state of Florida, there are new requirements with respect to groups. So there are some restrictions with respect to how you can name your group, but the great news is you can now have a fictitious name, which before was not possible. You need to update your broker on a monthly basis who is on your group and who is the designated person responsible for the group or team, presumably you. And so again, you're building a business now and you really need to get very serious about it. So I remember when I got started in the business, I really didn't initially intend to build a team, but I set such high goals that I realized the only way I was going to be able to get to that, to do 100 plus transactions a year, I had to ultimately build a team. And at first it just started out obviously with my assistant and another person, eventually had 4 buyer specialists. And then, you had the Thomas Heimann home selling team. But I remember the first thing that was drilled into my mind, the first 2 things really, and I followed the Craig Proctor program at that time, was number 1, your USP. You need to have a unique selling proposition for your business, for your team, something that sets you apart. And I did a separate video on that. But the second thing is devour Michael Gerber's E-Myth Revisited and really work on structuring your business, tearing it apart into all of the positions, and then scripting out each of the positions and build a real business that way. This is the only way you really can create a successful team long term that you can scale and grow. Now, if you do it right, there are some people that are building teams that do thousands of transactions. Because once you crack the code on generating business, on marketing, if you do X, you can 10X it and grow beyond that. So there are people out there that build giant teams that do hundreds of transactions, thousands of transactions, and that go across boundaries in other markets within the state, across state lines. There are some national teams, so the opportunities are definitely limitless, but you need to go about it the right way. If you like this content, please subscribe and please click on the bell on where it says subscribe so you'll be notified when I do other videos. Also, please leave comments. If you have any questions, please let me know. If you're thinking about starting a team, I want to help you. So I've gone through the process. I've built a very successful team. I've done a lot of transactions. I'm really a systems guy. So as far as systemizing things and creating structure, I'm very good at that. And when it comes to hiring team members, I'm going to do some additional videos coming up about the realities of running a team, the time that is really required to build a team. A lot of people have this misconception: you build a team and you're going to work less. Well, if you want to grow and scale your team, it's just like any other business. You're going to have to work incredibly hard to make that happen, but the opportunities are there. I'm going to talk about legal strategies, and I'm going to talk about hiring, because there is a science to hire the right people, and you need to hire very different people for different positions. And so we'll go into that into a future video. So thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Thomas Heimann, and I look forward to talking to you next time.